It's wonderful. It's Thanksgiving weekend. We're all excited to have this long weekend before winter enters. We're going to close our cabins. We're going to think of the summer we just had and how we are very thankful to God for what we have experienced during this time of the summer months. As we are giving thanks to the Lord for this many things He has given to us through the summer months and through our lives during these months that have gone by, it is also an occasion to give thanks to God for the gift of faith. This gift of faith is something that should be very precious for each and one of us, one that we want to share with others, one that we want to give to others, one that we really want to live out to its full. It's a beautiful gift. It's one that helps us to open our horizons, to open our lives to those around us, and not to be centered on ourselves. And when we do this, it's very funny how when our faith is an outgoing faith, it also brings us joy and happiness. Jesus has been calling all the time, and we talk about calling in the church quite often, the calling for the vocations, calling to serve, calling to prayer, calling to evangelize. We are all called, and we express this calling by responding to it. But here we have a different situation, because it is not Jesus that is calling, but it is the lepers who are calling Jesus.
Keeping their distance, they, the lepers, called out saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us."
They are calling Jesus from a distance. Why? Because they are searching for healing. In a recent message to the bishops, Pope Francis made the following comment: "We cannot keep ourselves shut up in parishes, in our communities, when so many people are waiting for the gospel." When we speak of people calling towards the church or to Christ, who are these people? They are the ordinary people of the street, those who are in our homes, in our different homes. But maybe we too are calling. We are calling for an understanding of why our children don't go to church anymore. This concerns us because we love them and we want what is best for them. We want to share with them the joy, the peace, and the fulfillment that comes from God. Study after study show that even though people are choosing not to practice their faith, in most cases they are still searching. They are searching for meaning, for purpose, for direction, and for something to believe in. They are searching for happiness, all of which, if we think about it, are exactly what Jesus offers.
Jesus is very clear about what He wants for us. In the first reading, we hear St. Paul use the following words: "So that they may also obtain the salvation that is in Christ Jesus, with eternal glory." And in the Gospel of John that we heard in the spring, Jesus said, "I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete." That your joy may be complete. The problem is most people are searching for this joy in the wrong place. It is like when you can't find your keys. You look all over the house for them, only to find that they're in your pocket or in your purse. Had you only checked your pockets first?
But there is something else in this sentence that is also very interesting and perhaps even fascinating. It is that the lepers knew that the man walking through their town was Jesus.
Now that's a very interesting question. How did the lepers in the story know that the man passing through their village was Jesus? Let's face it, they did not have Facebook or Twitter or television or telephones or even newspapers. Yes, it's possible that stories about Jesus had reached them through the grapevine of the day, but even then, how did they know that the man walking through their town at that very minute was in fact the Jesus that they had heard about? Most likely, they found out from one or more of the people who were with Jesus at the time. One of the locals, or as they refer to in the movies, an informant, a snitch. This person was probably someone who had witnessed what Jesus could do and was now his messenger, his disciple, and you could be his disciple.
This has a message for us, namely, that we have a role as Jesus' followers to be messengers, his messengers. As Christians, we are all called to a certain way of interacting with the world, to a certain level of being the image of God. Fulfilling our call has to do with being faithful and living with integrity. It has to do with bringing healing, hope, and forgiveness to the world in which we live. And it has to do with bringing Jesus to those, like the lepers, who are calling from a distance. Once again, in the words of Pope Francis, let us look courageously to pastoral needs, beginning with those who are farthest away, with those who do not usually go to church. They too are invited to the table of the Lord.
The word cleansing is used in the Bible because it describes what it meant to be healed in Jesus' time. In order for persons to be accepted, to be treated, and experience everyday freedoms like everyone else, to be allowed into the temple, for example, they needed to be clean, they needed to be whole.
Today we often get healing and being cured mixed up. Even though a cure may be a part of the healing process, being cured may not necessarily mean being healed. Think, for example, of someone who is deaf. Modern science has led to a multitude of devices which now permits the deaf to hear. Their deafness is not being cured, but through the technology, they can participate more fully in the world, the community, and the family around them. We live in a world in which commercialism would like us to believe that healing comes from what we have, like the credit card commercial that ends with, for everything else, there is a credit card. In some cases, like in the case of hearing aids, they are right. However, those cases are few and far between. True healing isn't about what you have. It is about being able to do meaningful work that fits with who you are. It is about having a sense of worth, a sense of purpose. It is about living in dignity and feeling fully human. As is also stated in the credit card commercial, these are the things that are priceless. They cannot be purchased, but they can come from being a follower of Christ. We were called, we were healed, and now we're going to express gratitude. What a wonderful thing that we have it on Thanksgiving weekend.
Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. He prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him, and he was a Samaritan.
You know, there is something very interesting about Samaritans.
If you study Samaritans' history, you find out that they actually came from the same ancestry as the Jews. However, there was what might be called a difference of opinion, which separated them. That separation, in turn, led them to change their religious practices.
Does this sound a little familiar to you? I am quite sure that most of us encountered, even in our own families, persons whose children have chosen a different spiritual route than that of their parents, even though As descendants of Catholics, they were raised in the same tradition. Something has caused them to choose a different route when it comes to their religious practice. He was healed not because of what he had or who he was. He was healed because he believed in Jesus. In today's readings, we learn about a call. That call led to a connection between 10 lepers to Jesus. That connection led to a healing, the ability to live in dignity and feel fully human. And this led to an expression of gratitude that confirmed a belief in Jesus. But what is most important for us is that it all started when someone who had already believed, a messenger, did something that connected the lepers to Jesus. There is a story about a kindergarten teacher observing his classroom of children while they drew. He would occasionally walk around to see each child's artwork. And as he got to one little girl who was working diligently, he asked what the drawing was. The girl replied, "I'm drawing God." The teacher paused and said, "But no one knows what God looks like." Without missing a beat and looking up from her drawing, the girl replied, "They will in a minute." Just think of what our church would be like if each of us could say about those who do not or no longer believe, "They will in a minute." This little girl was like the messenger I talked about earlier. Our mission as God's messenger within our families and our communities is to be like that little girl, to use gifts God has given us to help others meet Christ so that their joy may be complete. And this is why I am once again humbly asking for your support. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you, and God bless.